is the other big city on Lake Michigan. 90 miles north of Chicago, it's home to beer, the Bucks, and the Fonz. But these are not happy days.
A violent weekend in Milwaukee.
Milwaukee police are investigating 3 separate shootings.
6 shootings, 3 dead, all in a single-day outbreak of violence in Milwaukee.
The name Milwaukee, otherwise known as Cream City, evokes images of long brick walkways for the unacquainted. Best known for its vibrant German culture, the Major League Breweries, and some of the largest breweries in the U.S., Milwaukee seems like a nice tourist spot, at least on paper. Step closer to pull back the curtains, and you'll see the city for what it truly is. Ranked within the top 3 largest cities with the highest violent crime rate, living in Milwaukee for the 500,000 population is a tumultuous fight against the odds every day. Known as Pimp School and home to the Milwaukee Cannibal, the city is ranked 3rd highest for murder, robbery, and aggravated assault. Crime rates in Milwaukee rank 146% higher than the national average, as the vibrant pulse of urban life fails to conceal its harsh reality. These unforgiving circumstances have earned Milwaukee its second name, Killwaukee.
The grimy that seen out here was an old lady right here, and the only thing they did was just walk over like that. Then step back and look. That's the grimy shot at sink. No. It's 19th Street.
While she was out here naked, though, man, what's wrong with her?
What was wrong with ours? She was a, you know what I'm saying? She was a veteran height. You know what I'm saying? That's all she was, a veteran height. You know what I'm saying? She ran off.
Milwaukee, a city whose streets still bear the marks of its segregated history, belongs to the hoods that gained prominence in the 1970s and 1980s. Present-day Milwaukee is divided into the North Side and the South Side, each with its own street affiliations. On the North Side, Hispanic street gangs with connections to Mexican drug trafficking organizations reign supreme. Meanwhile, the South Side belongs to African-American street gangs like the Gangster Disciples and Vice Lords, along with several local gangs named after the neighborhoods where the members grew up. Most areas in the city are recognized by their street names like Burley, Hampton, Center Street, Capitol Drive, and so on. Gangster Disciples members can be found in the 4 block. However, most gangs have operations spread across the city with no designated areas.
What were some of the streets? What were some of the neighborhoods?
I'm East Side, man.
Okay.
East Side?
Right.
I'm East Side. I'm East Side. I'm not an East Side gangster, but I roll with them.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? I roll with the East Side gangsters. Everybody know that. The whole town know that. You know, we put a lot of pressure. They know about the East Side. You know what I'm saying?
Milwaukee heavy in gang culture too. You know?
Yeah, I mean the 2-4s, the 1-9s, all of them, the Burlight 2s, all of them. They know that we was the money crew. You know what I'm saying? We had the best pimps, the best hustlers, the best everything. The East Side, you go to Milwaukee, that's the side.
Okay.
These gangs have been responsible for instigating much of the violence that plagues the streets of Milwaukee. While gun violence and petty crimes like car thefts run rampant, drug trafficking within these circles poses a bigger problem. Supply lines from Mexican and Chicago-based drug trafficking organizations provide these groups with copious amounts of powder cocaine, MDMA, and commercial-grade marijuana. African-American street gangs have taken control of multiple stash houses in the north for converting this powder cocaine to crack, processing half a kilogram at times. Once processed, these gangs recruit girlfriends and relatives to do their bidding on the streets. As per an estimate by the local police department, the city plays host to at least 50 gangs operating in the area with over 1,000 members. Hispanic gangs seem to operate under a well-established structure. Although the same cannot be said about the African-American street gangs, a strong sense of brotherhood and fraternity holds them together. Over the years, there have been efforts to dismantle these groups.
Tonight, police announced a dozen arrests tied to a violent gang on the city's north side. follows a very violent start to the year already. 43 homicides, 1,550 stolen cars. And just last night, police say a teen stole a car, led officers on a chase, and then crashed into several other cars.
However, the gang's close-knit system has proven to be a considerable hurdle. The reluctance of arrested gang members to cooperate with the authorities and kinship to even rival gang members have prevented the authorities from untangling this deeply woven web of chaos and gang violence. In 2008, a multi-agency investigation by the local authorities led to the arrest of 100 gang members. However, they did little to rid Milwaukee of a fatal disease. In this elusive criminal realm, gang members have also managed to outmaneuver authorities by using contracted cellular phones, Blackberries, and burners for communication, leaving no trace of their activities and preserving anonymity. A stark example of this sophisticated approach unfolded when a prominent leader of a North Side gang was found to be using 20 different cellular phones to run his local drug empire. However, Milwaukee's peril is hardly news for residents who have been living in the city since the old days. Milwaukee has been steeped in mayhem since its inception. From the Great Lake disasters to the dark tales of murder and matchstick men and raging fires, the city has seen its fair share of chaos and violence. There have been no simpler times for the residents to look back on, and years later, the situation remains the same with no hope of getting better. The city's segregation itself is a reminder of the racial disparity that existed long ago in the region.
How did Milwaukee earn such a title? A Marquette professor points to white flight in the 70s and then people of color leaving in the 90s and 2000s for suburbs and other parts of the country.
We are left with these neighborhoods that are not only segregated racially, but in terms of poverty, and so you have neighborhoods where nobody really wants to move into them.
But Dr. Roberta Coles also points out there are programs working to counter the problem, specifically BIDs, or Business Improvement Districts.
Back in the old days, black people inhabited the north side of the city while white people lived on the south side. The same holds true today, with the only difference being the Hispanics having moved in. Black people first arrived in the city in the 1960s. However, the economy had reached a stalemate then, putting an end to the city's days as a thriving economic hub. In the backdrop of the economic turmoil, blacks found themselves competing with whites. A lack of opportunities gave no time for a black middle or upper class to find its footing. And years later, it seems the streets of Milwaukee continue to tell the same story as the destitute wreak havoc across the county.
Who were killed just hours apart, and these latest fatal shootings come as Milwaukee County sees the highest number of homicides ever recorded in a single year. Amelia Jones is live at Teutonia and Center with what we know about the victims.
Carl, Milwaukee police came here to Teutonia and Center just after midnight, focusing their investigation on a shooting happening at the gas station behind me. Fox 6 was here as police were getting underway with the investigation. Let's take a look at the video. When police got here, they found a 23-year-old man had been shot. Despite life-saving efforts, the Milwaukee man died at the scene. No word on any suspects. Milwaukee police are looking into what led up to the shooting.
As the clock struck midnight, ushering in the new year in 2021, Milwaukee found itself in a grim reality. A record-breaking 189 homicides, nearly double that of 2019. However, this was not the first time the city had grappled with such harrowing statistics. In 1991, Milwaukee set a tragic precedent with 165 recorded deaths, pointing to the persistent challenges that have haunted the city for years.
It's been 3 record-breaking years of bloodshed. Milwaukee funeral director Tom Morris says work has been busy, very busy.
This year, how many homicide victims have you cared for?
Probably close to 50.
And how many of those have died from gunshot wounds?
Every single one of them.
Although the grim increase can be blamed on the raging pandemic that tormented most cities around the country, for Milwaukee it allowed existing evils to seep through the cracks. Gun violence in the city followed a similar trend. Milwaukee concluded 2021 with more than 700 gun violence victims, a 64% increase from 2019, bringing an end to the 2-year decline. The same year, the police confiscated more than 3,000 guns from local gang members, highlighting an 18% increase from the year before.
Wednesday, 5 p.m. rush hour at the busy intersection of James Lovell and Wisconsin Avenue. Video shows one teen punch a man. Another pulls out a gun and shoots him in the stomach. He falls to the ground. A witness nearly in the crossfire appears to snap a picture, then helps the man as the three teens run off.
The city's dire situation can be blamed on public menaces, including the likes of Kenneth Twyman. The 26-year-old was sentenced to 35 years in prison for first-degree reckless homicide in 2021.
Now, this all started with what Twyman says was a chance encounter at a gas station parking lot in the doorway of the GPC Quick Mart near Fond du Lac and Locust. Twyman was going in, he says, to get sodas. Luckett was coming out with pizza rolls when the two recognized each other. Twyman says he knew he still owed Luckett $150 for 3 grams of cocaine from a year and a half earlier. Outside the convenience store, Twyman says he tried to shake hands with Luckett, but Luckett pulled his hand back. He saw a gun in Luckett's other hand pointed at the ground, and then he says Luckett told him, "This is how people die."
A sentence that came many years too late. Twyman had found his way on Wisconsin's most wanted fugitives list. Not once, not twice, but thrice. Had the city acted timely, then maybe 24-year-old Tavon Luckett, the father of 8 and the last to die by Twyman's hands, would still be alive today.
It was really traumatic.
A human trafficking survivor sharing her story. She says she met her trafficker on a dating app when she was 19 years old.
Things went good for a couple weeks, and then he became a total monster.
She says he started abusing her, one time beating her until she was unconscious.
I basically woke up in his house with 5 other people surrounding me, and they told me that I now belong to them.
And how long were you in his house?
3 years.
They held her against her will and sexually trafficked her for years. It's a crime that's growing in Milwaukee.
In the dark underbelly of Milwaukee, the insidious evil of sex trafficking finds its stronghold, giving way to the city's other name, the Harvard of Pimp School. Within the bounds of Cream City, the statistics paint a harrowing picture. Milwaukee ranks very high nationally among the number of victims recovered and pimps prosecuted. According to one report, 340 individuals, aged 25 and under, were confirmed to be victims of sex trafficking in the city between January 1st, 2013 and December 31st, 2016. Over the years, there have been attempts to dismantle Milwaukee's deep-knit sex trafficking rings, with some of them bearing results. In 2012, authorities were able to arrest Derek Avery, otherwise known as Pimp Snooki, in online circles.
Shit. I'm gonna find me some hoes, man, because I don't feel right if I don't get a couple bitches a day. I ain't got not one number today. I know my pimpin' ain't going sour. Shit. Yeah.
Daddy.
What's up, baby?
I have a question.
What?
Can I just spend the money on my dress?
No, the question is yes, you can spend the money on your dress, but the question is you got to hit my mitt first.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
All right, baby.
Avery prostituted scores of women and girls from Milwaukee to Las Vegas for approximately 16 years. Avery's victims cited violent, degrading, and abusive methods by which he managed to keep them in line. According to court documents, Avery regularly assaulted the women under him, beating them with his fists, wooden and metal brooms, and leather belts, kicking them with his alligator shoes, and even hitting them with a baseball bat at times. Federal prosecutors sentenced the father of 26 children to 20 years in prison. However, even with Avery behind bars, most of Milwaukee's pimps run rampant to this day, preying on young women and runaways.
According to Milwaukee police, human trafficking is up 58% since last year. This year, police have had more confirmed cases in 9 months than all of 2021.
Why are we seeing the numbers grow?
You have a lot more vulnerable people right now with COVID. You have a lot more people with lack of physical affection and touch.
Location, also a factor.
That has a lot to do with the pipeline, is what they call it, from Chicago, and then you go up to the Dakotas where the gas pipelines were being put in. Traffickers are going to look where is a lot of men that don't have family with them, because then that's where we're going to make a lot of money.
It sounds very strategic.
Extremely strategic.
Exploiting their dire circumstances, these vulnerable individuals are forced to live as paychecks for their pimps. Escape seems impossible as the threat of being hunted down and killed hangs solemnly over the victims, even after breaking free from the clutches of these notorious pimps.
Well, of course, unfortunately, we've heard a lot recently about violent crime in the city of Milwaukee. But now there's word from Milwaukee police that property crime is also up this year.
That includes people stealing stuff from cars and stealing the vehicles themselves. Winnie George is live in River West, a local community where people say they've been hit hard. Winnie.
Well, neighbors tell me it seems like every day someone is reporting their car stolen or their car was broken into. And for that reason, one man says he's always checking his surveillance cameras.
In the midst of sex trafficking rings and gun violence, the city also finds itself facing unprecedented property crime rates. As of 2023, property crime rates in the area have increased by 22%, with the incidence of car theft being the highest. In fact, Milwaukee ranked #1 in motor vehicle theft. From 2020 to 2022, the incidence of car thefts in the area increased by a concerning 111%. Milwaukee's safer neighborhoods are not untouched by the string of crimes either. Winnebago County Executive John DeMille had his car stolen in the city after he and his wife were getting ready to go home. In another incident, a stolen vehicle crashed into a school bus, leaving many injured.
Kids hanging out of a car, swerving outside Morris Middle School, and crashing into the back of a parked school bus.
I was a driver or passenger, and I didn't notice anyone until they started fleeing from the car. There were at least 3 others.
But it didn't take long for people to start IDing them. Police reviewed school surveillance video, and a school administrator identified one of the passengers. And another witness identified the driver as a student.
Interestingly, there seems to be an increasing incidence of Kia and Hyundai cars being used in these crimes. The trend seems to have been picked up after the release of the song Shake Yo Nay Nay by the city's own rappers Sean P. and Mary Mac. With nearly 1 million plays on Spotify, the song glorified stealing Kias and Hyundais, laying the foundation for one of the strangest phenomena in Milwaukee's history. Devastated by the circumstances, the authorities had taken a last resort by writing a letter to Kia and Hyundai, asking them to make changes to the car features that contributed to the increasing thefts. Hyundais, built between 2015 to 2021, and Kias, manufactured between 2011 to 2021, featured a tiny knob under the ignition cylinder. Once a member of the Kia Boys breaks the window, which is as simple as throwing a rock, anyone with a phone charger can switch on the engine and take the vehicle for a joyride. YouTube videos like "I Stole a Kia with a TikTok Hack" by Jeremiah Burton fill in the gaps for young men who may not have grasped the unsophisticated method already. However, the authorities' pleas for a safer neighborhood fell on deaf ears, as the automakers cited manufacturing problems for being unable to do something about the situation. The circumstances gave birth to the Kia Boys, a group of teenage boys who went on terrorizing the neighborhoods by stealing cars. Boys as young as 12 years, too young to apply for a driver's license, participated in car thefts, prompting serious concerns about the state of affairs.
This is one of those Kia stealing kids. I swear, I'm gonna crack your phone.
They're called the TikTok Kia Boys. Teens like these 4 stealing cars and using them to commit violent crimes. Good evening and thank you for joining us for The Spotlight. I'm David Rose. The next time you see a Kia or a Hyundai with a broken window and without a license plate, it's probably a stolen car. And driving this crime trend is TikTok.
You don't need a key, bro. It should override it, bro.
Damn. That's what the Kia Boys doing, man.
Videos of joyrides posted on TikTok and bragging social media posts only highlight the stark dissociation of these individuals from their actions. What paves the way for this trend is a mix of pandemic boredom, an urge to make it big on social media, and a lack of police prosecution. The result? A total of 10,500 vehicles were stolen in Milwaukee in 2021, with 67% being Hyundai and Kias. Given the circumstances, you will seldom find car owners in Milwaukee or vehicles without a yellow or red steering lock. That said, the Kia Boys are far from a hierarchical organization. Anyone who steals a Kia or a Hyundai reserves the right to call himself a Kia Boy. Unlike typical car theft rings, the Kia Boys don't operate out of financial interest, but for the sake of social media fame and the thrill of the act. Most stolen vehicles end up being returned, reeking of weed with bottles of booze in the backseat.
A gruesome story leads off our newscast.
Milwaukee police found body parts in a North Side apartment, and now they wonder if they've uncovered some kind of death factory. This was the scene earlier this morning. Police hired a private contractor to haul a refrigerator and a tank of acid out of the apartment in the 900 block of North 25th Street. Because of the acid, some neighbors were evacuated briefly. Police found parts of bodies, leading them to believe the man they arrested is a mass murderer.
Although Milwaukee's history is shrouded with horrifying tales of violence, it's the twisted tale of Jeffrey Dahmer, Milwaukee's very own monster born in the heart of Wisconsin's largest city, that cast the longest shadow of them all. Perhaps it's Milwaukee's history of violence that gave birth to a serial killer like Jeffrey Dahmer. From 1978 to 1991, Dahmer, a name that puzzles psychologists and criminologists to this day, terrorized the streets of the city, leaving a trail of dismembered dead bodies in his wake. By the time he was arrested, Jeffrey had claimed the lives of 17 males in the most gruesome way possible. Many of these grisly murders unfolded against the backdrop of Milwaukee's urban landscape. Dahmer first found a taste of blood under his grandmother's roof in West Allis, a suburb located in downtown Milwaukee.
Well, you're looking good. Grandma was saying that she thought that you got quite a bit thinner, but you look fit. I don't know.
Well, I've been surviving mostly on McDonald's food. It's just so much easier just to pop into the restaurant. But
yeah,
like I've said before, it gets too expensive, and
it does.
I have to start eating at home more.
The house is still standing today, offering a chilling reminder of what went down behind its closed doors. The twisted tale of malevolence continued as Dahmer moved to an apartment at 808 North 24th Street in September 1988. However, it was within the walls of his apartment at the 49-unit apartment building, Oxford Apartments, in his final year as a free man, where Dahmer's malevolent reign reached its supreme. Apartment 213 at 924 North 25th Street was home to Dahmer for 14 months before he was finally arrested and put behind bars. The building, the halls of which once echoed with Dahmer's footsteps as he walked home after the day's killings, has since then been torn down with a wire fence put up around the plot.
In Milwaukee, the mother of one of Jeffrey Dahmer's victims says it represents new life. The apartment building where the convicted murderer killed and mutilated many of his 17 victims is being demolished. Its owner, Campus Circle Project, has offered to help relocate the remaining residents and revitalize the neighborhood.
Plans were introduced to transform the sinister place into something more constructive for the community, serving as a symbolic reclamation of the area from the clutches of evil. However, it seems like authorities remain paralyzed by fear as the lot stands vacant to this day. The abandoned land serves as an alarming reminder of Milwaukee's dark past, symbolizing the city's failed efforts to reclaim its streets from violence. In the heart of Milwaukee, a city grappling with unprecedented rates of gun violence and brutal crimes, the roots of the issue run far deeper than the scars on the surface. A sinister shadow looms over the city, tracing its lineage to a racially segregated system that has plagued the city since the very beginning. The state ranks last in reading comprehension tests among black fourth graders, with the largest achievement gap between white and black students. With the public school system struggling to keep afloat with federal and state funding cuts, the majority of black children in the state find themselves living in poverty, unable to climb their way out of the urban chaos owing to an inadequate education system. These problems ripple through the education sector, leading to a suspension rate that's double the national average for black students. What follows is an inescapable cycle of street affiliations, gun violence, and a life of crime for young minds. As these boys find themselves mapping out the direction of their lives, it is at this juncture when the call to join street gangs beckons them to another life, one steeped in violence. With a promise of a stable life and a semblance of a sense of belonging, these gangs offer refuge.
News investigates Milwaukee's record homicide rate and spike in violent crime means the county jail is nearing capacity.
12 News' Hillary Mintz with an exclusive look behind bars.
This is the pre-book area.
Milwaukee County Jail Commander Inspector Aaron Dobson exclusively gave 12 News a glimpse of the housing unit on this surveillance monitor.
On a normal day, there's about 64 individuals in these housing units. It is busy.
COVID kept us out of the secure area. Faces are blurred because not all have been charged.
So this is where they live. And, it's challenging when the population does get quite high.
Regrettably, the city's response to the concerning situation has been more than disappointing. With an inclination towards incarceration over rehabilitation, the city's council contributes another factor to the dark tale of social decay. Recent years have shown a disheartening shift in priorities, with the state approving more funds for corrections than for higher education, essentially stranding its young men and women in the abyss of violence. The consequences of these misguided choices are etched on the faces of more than half of Milwaukee County's black men in their 30s and 40s, all of whom have found themselves counting their days behind bars at one point. Milwaukee's sex trafficking ring seems to prey on the same root causes: broken homes, drug abuse, and homelessness.
This woman, who we'll call Mary Brown, lives with her son and grandson around the corner from Sandra Williams. She asked that we not use her real name because she lives in fear. One of the few homeowners left in her block, Brown's property is an island of order in a sea of litter, gang graffiti, and burned out abandoned houses. In the 10 years Brown has owned her house, she has watched her neighborhood fall apart.
Given the rising crime rate and the lack of better opportunities, many residents of Milwaukee have decided to pack their bags and move to greener pastures across the borders of Brew City. Since the onset of the pandemic, more than 20,000 people have reportedly bid farewell to the county, their home of years. Meanwhile, surrounding communities as near as Waukesha County saw an increase of more than 3,000 residents. While these residents go on to begin new chapters of their lives, the homes they leave behind don't just turn into vacant lots, but living parasites that threaten the very safety of the neighborhood. Up until 2021, the Milwaukee Department of Neighborhood Services system had logged in a staggering 7,400 vacant properties. The pandemic, with its economic repercussions, only served to exacerbate the issues, leading to a surge of foreclosures, adding to the city's housing crisis.
Milwaukee firefighters battled a fire at a vacant home overnight. The flames were spotted near 25th and Burleigh around 1 o'clock this morning. Investigators have not said how that fire started. No one was hurt.
These vacant properties, once brimming with life, now stand witness to the city's struggles. Dumping grounds and the backdrop for notorious gang activities, the vacant lots are magnets for trouble, upending the peace of the neighborhood. Residents grappling with frequent break-ins and fires at these vacant lots have often had to reach out to authorities for intervention. Between the lack of affordable housing and the abundance of vacant houses, Milwaukee's housing situation is somewhat of a paradox, one that will not be solved anytime soon. Residents are required to register their property as vacant if it stays empty for more than 30 days. What follows is 2 years of quarterly checks before the property can be seized for non-payment of taxes. The city's own laws, although well-intentional, hinder timely efforts to breathe life into these properties. By the time the authorities gather the resources to step in, the houses more often than not have decayed beyond salvation. At this point, it is much easier for authorities to tear down the structure than to revive it. Milwaukee, a city grappling with the ghosts of its past and the challenges of the present, finds itself at a crossroads. For council members and residents alike, the path forward remains shrouded in uncertainty. However, that is in no way an invitation to turn a blind eye to the city. The lives lost and communities shattered beckon those left behind to do better. The challenges of today, be they rooted in systemic inequalities, rising crime rates, or housing crises, although cast a long shadow over the potential of progress, shouldn't discourage attempts to restore peace to Milwaukee. Brew City holds as much potential as its surrounding counties with its rich cultural heritage and historical landmarks. By calling for action at both an individual and state level, the community can pave the way for a brighter tomorrow. If not for the residents of today, then definitely for the children of tomorrow. It is our hope that this documentary serves as a catalyst for change, inspiring authority members to take the appropriate measures and for individuals to step forward and break this cycle of violence.